Michael was on the New York subway when it happened, 3 p.m. rush hour. He looked at the woman sitting across from him and perceived something he'd never noticed before, a luminous quality around her presence. Blue tones, then yellow, then intense red. He blinked. The perception remained. Not a reflection from the train's lights. Not visual fatigue. Something in his awareness had shifted. Michael wasn't into esoteric practices. He was a software engineer, skeptical, hardcore materialist. But 21 days earlier, he'd discovered something ancient observers like Thoth described in the Emerald Tablets 3,000 years ago. Not vague spiritual teaching. What appeared to be a systematic practice disguised as mystical ritual. A protocol centered on the pineal gland, the small organ at the center of your brain that regulates melatonin production and circadian rhythm. Dr. Rick Strassman at the University of New Mexico hypothesized it might produce trace amounts of endogenous DMT. A fascinating theory, still debated in neuroscience, and when practitioners follow this protocol carefully, many report experiencing shifts in perception, heightened intuition, vivid dreams, synchronicities, what the ancients called lifting the veil, what modern consciousness researchers call expanded awareness states. When that perceptual filter shifts, reality feels different. Like a matrix you're beginning to decode, but there's a reason Thoth encoded this knowledge in symbols. Because practiced recklessly without foundation, these methods can feel destabilizing. Fragment your sense of self rather than expand it. And 99% of modern approaches skip the essential groundwork. Before revealing the true protocol of the 7 breaths, you need to understand why your pineal gland may be functioning suboptimally, and what practitioners consistently report when they finally optimize it through careful, structured practice. Let me show you something that will completely change how you understand your own neurobiology. Right now, at the geometric center of your brain, there's a gland the size of a grain of rice. Its scientific name, the pineal gland. But across millennia, mystics called it by other names. The eye of Horus, the third eye, the seat of the soul. For centuries, modern science overlooked this tiny organ, considered it vestigial, without significant function. But research in the 1990s shifted that perspective entirely. Dr. Rick Strassman at the University of New Mexico conducted groundbreaking studies. He proposed that the pineal might produce DMT naturally, dimethyltryptamine, the same molecule found in sacred plants used in shamanic traditions for thousands of years, the compound associated with profound altered states of consciousness. But here's what fascinated researchers. Your body might synthesize trace amounts endogenously. This remains a hypothesis, not proven in living humans, but compelling. Every night while you sleep, your pineal produces melatonin, the hormone that regulates your sleep-wake cycle, and some researchers speculate that in specific states, deep meditation, near-death experiences, moments of extreme stress, other neurochemicals may be involved. The pineal as a gateway between ordinary and non-ordinary consciousness. Now comes the concerning part. Research has shown that many pineal glands accumulate mineral deposits over time. Calcification that potentially impacts optimal function. A study by Jennifer Luke at the University of Surrey found that fluoride can accumulate in pineal tissue. Whether this significantly impairs function remains scientifically debated, but it raised important questions about pineal health in modern populations. And here's where it gets interesting. If calcification occurs, practitioners across traditions have developed methods they believe support decalcification. Dietary changes, lifestyle modifications, specific practices. Thoth's writings suggest ancient observers recognized patterns we're only now beginning to study systematically. The Hermetic principle, as above, so below. Not poetry, a framework about correspondence and resonance. Everything vibrates, everything moves, nothing rests. Not mysticism. Pattern recognition that aligns with modern physics. And the protocol of the 7 breaths? Not random meditation, what appears to be a systematic practice involving breathwork, intention, and neurological awareness. When practitioners align these elements carefully, many report profound shifts, enhanced intuition, clearer dreams, heightened sensory awareness, And Michael discovered this in the most unexpected way possible. But before continuing his story, you need to understand what happened in those 21 days prior. Because what he did wasn't casual meditation. It was following an ancestral framework with surprising precision, one that you're about to learn. Michael was 34 when he found the protocol, worked 12-hour days coding AI systems, pure logic, algorithms, mathematics, zero interest in spirituality. But something had been bothering him for months, recurring dreams he couldn't shake. Dreams where he saw geometric symbols he'd never studied, complex mandalas that rotated with mathematical precision, patterns that seemed alive, intelligent, and he always woke with a strange feeling, like he was forgetting something crucial, something he knew before language, before thought. A programmer friend who practiced meditation mentioned casually, "Dude, that sounds like pineal activation stuff." Michael laughed. Pineal? That's pseudoscience. But his scientific curiosity wouldn't let it go. He started researching and found something that caught his attention. Dr. Rick Strassman's DMT hypothesis, Jennifer Luke's research on pineal calcification, and then, almost by accident, the Emerald tablets, not the New Age interpretations filled with vague platitudes, an old Hermetic translation that decoded symbols as systematic instructions, breath counts, timing, sequencing. It read less like spirituality and more like biological programming. The protocol had 3 phases, each lasting 7 days, 21 days total, to potentially reverse suboptimal function and optimize pineal health. Michael, being a skeptic, decided to treat this as an experiment. He would document everything, track subjective experiences. If nothing measurable happened in 21 days, he'd dismiss it as placebo. But he would follow the protocol precisely. No modifications, no shortcuts. Exactly as the ancient framework prescribed. For the first 3 days, nothing happened. 0 changes. He nearly quit. But something kept him going. A voice inside. Just one more day. On day 5, he noticed the first anomaly. During meditation with eyes closed, doing the specific breathing pattern, a sudden flash of violet light appeared in his visual field. Phosphine, he thought. Pressure on the optic nerve. But it happened again. And again. Always in the same location. Center of his forehead. Always the same color. Deep violet. He documented it. Continued. On day 7, first phase complete. Something shifted in his sleep architecture. Dreams became extraordinarily vivid. Lucid dreams where he knew he was dreaming while dreaming. Maintained awareness across the sleep threshold. But strangest of all, he began waking with solutions to code problems that had stumped him for weeks. Complete solutions. Elegant. Unexpected. As if someone had compiled the answer while he slept. He told no one, just documented and observed. In the second phase, days 8 through 14, intensity increased. Physical sensation developed in his forehead. Not pain, pressure, like something expanding from within. His sensory perception sharpened noticeably, heard conversations from unusual distances with abnormal clarity, detected subtle scents others missed entirely, and began experiencing what he could only describe as knowing. Phone would ring. He'd know who was calling before looking. Colleague would open their mouth. He'd sense what they'd say. Not thoughts, just information arriving ahead of speech. He documented everything meticulously, searched for neurological explanations, found none that satisfied. Day 14 brought something he couldn't rationalize. Work meeting, boss presenting a new project. And Michael saw it, a dark quality around the man's energy, like a dense fog clinging to his presence. He blinked. The perception persisted, and with the vision came certainty. Absolute knowing that this project would collapse, not from technical analysis, from something deeper, pattern recognition beyond logic. 1 week later, project cancelled. Boss had a breakdown, went on medical leave. Michael sat in shocked silence. How had he known? Phase 3, days 15 through 21. Michael entered territory that genuinely frightened him. He began perceiving energy fields around everything. Plants had a subtle glow. Animals more pronounced, people most vivid of all. Different colors, different intensities, different textures, and most unsettling, he began knowing things about spaces. Walk into a room and sense if something traumatic had occurred there. Look at someone and feel their emotional history, not from body language, not from analysis, direct information download, like his brain was accessing a database he'd never known existed. Day 21. The subway incident. He saw the woman's field clearly, watched it pulse and shift with her emotional states. That's when Michael understood. Thoth wasn't teaching mysticism. He was teaching how to use a dormant capacity, an organ of perception that modern life had put to sleep. And now that it was active, there was no going back. But there's something critical Michael learned in this process. Something you need to understand before attempting the protocol yourself. Because if you approach this carelessly, consequences can be significant. The 7-breath protocol isn't recreational meditation. It's what appears to be a neurological activation sequence based on 3 ancestral pillars Thoth preserved. Each pillar has a specific biological correlate. The first pillar, the rising sun protocol. This comes from Egyptian priest practices in Heliopolis. They recognize something modern chronobiology now confirms. Morning light exposure profoundly influences pineal function. How? Through the retinohypothalamic tract, a direct neural pathway connecting your retina to your pineal gland. When you expose your eyes to natural light in the first hour after dawn, 3 things occur. First, red and infrared wavelengths at this time have specific penetration properties. Second, morning light suppresses melatonin and activates serotonin, optimizing circadian rhythm. Third, and most relevant, it supports healthy pineal function. But here's the critical safety note. Never look directly at the sun. This causes permanent retinal damage. What ancient practices involved was standing outdoors facing east during the golden hour, eyes open, absorbing indirect morning light, looking at the horizon, the landscape, the sky around the sun, not the solar disk itself. The Egyptians did this daily, faced east atop temple platforms. They understood this practice, combined with breathwork, enhanced awareness states. Michael followed this religiously during his 21 days. 5:30 a.m. Wake up. Nearby park. 15 minutes facing east, indirect light exposure. Afterward, mental clarity that persisted all day. Not placebo, measurable difference in focus and cognitive performance. The second pillar, the blue light fast. This comes from Essene purification traditions. They discovered what neuroscience validated only recently. Artificial blue light completely blocks melatonin production, and melatonin is foundational for optimal pineal function. Without adequate melatonin, pineal health declines. Simple biology. Every electronic device emits blue light. Phones, computers, TVs, LED bulbs. When you look at screens at night, your brain interprets it as midday. Pineal stops melatonin synthesis. Circadian rhythm disrupts. Optimal neurochemical production never occurs. The Essene protocol is strict but effective. 7 days of zero blue light after sunset. No screens, no white LED lighting, only candlelight or red spectrum lamps. Michael implemented this first week, brutal at first. Addicted to checking his phone before sleep, but he replaced it with physical reading by candlelight. Day 3, something shifted. Sleep deepened dramatically. Dreams became vivid, colorful, memorable. Woke feeling like he'd traveled somewhere during sleep. REM architecture improving measurably. The third pillar, the sacred sound of 963 Hz. This frequency comes from Hermetic traditions, preserved in Gregorian chants, Tibetan mantras, sacred music across cultures. Thoth understood that sound is vibration, and vibration influences matter. Take water, apply specific frequencies, it forms geometric patterns. This is established science, cymatics. Now consider, your body is 70% water. Cerebrospinal fluid surrounds your brain. What do specific frequencies do to that fluid environment? The 963 Hz frequency is called pineal activation frequency in sound healing traditions. Scientific evidence for specific neurological effects is limited, but many practitioners report it facilitates deeper meditative states. Subjectively, it seems to create resonance in the cranial cavity. Like massaging the pineal with sound waves, Michael used headphones with 963 Hz during breath sessions. 21 minutes precisely. Why 21? Because research shows this is approximately how long it takes the brain to transition fully into theta wave states. And theta is where practitioners report deepest meditative experiences. These three pillars combined create optimal conditions for the 7-breath protocol. But the breaths themselves are the core activation sequence, and now you'll learn exactly how to perform them. But first, I need to tell you what happened to Michael on day 18. Something that almost made him abandon everything, because when perception expands, you don't just experience light and beauty. You experience what was being filtered, and it's not always comfortable. Day 18. Evening meditation. 7 breaths. 963 Hz in headphones. Eyes closed. He dropped into theta faster than usual, and suddenly perceived something. A presence, not a physical entity, a form, dark, dense, watching him from within his own consciousness. Michael's eyes snapped open, heart racing. Room empty. Closed them again. The presence remained. Closer now. Primal fear activated. Brain stems screaming danger. But then he remembered. Thoth had written about this. The guardians of the threshold, not external entities. Projections of the psyche, shadow aspects. Repressed fears materializing when perception expands beyond ordinary filters. The test. Can you remain present, or will you flee back to comfortable limitation? Michael took a slow breath. Did something counterintuitive. He focused on the presence. Asked internally, "What are you?" The dark form began shifting, becoming less dense, and understanding arrived. It was his own fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of madness. Fear of seeing too much and being unable to return to normal. The moment he recognized this, the presence dissolved, replaced by pulsing violet light, the same from day 5, but now 1,000 times more intense. Michael remained in this state for 40 minutes. When he emerged, tears streaming down his face. Not from fear, from relief. He had crossed a threshold, and on the other side, clarity. Now comes the complete protocol you'll follow. The 7 activation breaths, as Thoth encoded them. But first, prepare your space. Non-negotiable. Choose a location where you won't be interrupted for 30 minutes. Phone off. Airplane mode. Different room entirely. If practicing at night, use only candle light or red lamps. Sit with spine erect. Chair or floor with cushion. Critical. Spine aligned for optimal energy flow. Headphones with 963 Hz playing at low volume. Background only, not dominant. Close your eyes. Bring attention to the point between your eyebrows. Don't force. Simply observe. As if there's an internal screen and you're waiting for something to appear. Now, the 7 breaths. First breath. Activation. Inhale slowly through nose, counting to 4. Feel air entering, descending, filling abdomen first, then chest. Hold 4 seconds. During this pause, visualize golden light entering through crown of head. Exhale through mouth, counting to 6. Feel golden light descending spine. This opens the central channel. Second breath, purification. Inhale through nose, 4 counts. Imagine drawing white light through the point between eyebrows. Hold 4 seconds. Feel white light dissolving any blockage. Exhale through mouth, 6 counts, releasing everything no longer serving. Energetic decalcification. Third breath, expansion. Inhale through nose, 4 counts. Light becomes violet, entering directly into pineal gland. Hold 4 seconds. Feel the gland expanding, awakening. Exhale through mouth, 6 counts. Violet light radiates from pineal throughout brain. Fourth breath, integration. The bridge. Inhale through nose, 4 counts. No visualization, pure sensation. Hold 7 seconds, not 4, 7. Sacred number of transformation. Exhale through mouth, 8 counts, as slowly as possible. Entering theta now. Body feeling heavy or very light. Both normal. Fifth breath, frequency. Inhale through nose, 4 counts. Hold 7 seconds. Mentally emit the sound OM or Thoth during retention. Internal only. Vibrating the pineal with sound. Exhale through mouth, 8 counts. Feel vibration echoing in center of head. 6th breath, portal. Inhale through nose, 4 counts. Hold 7 seconds. Focus all attention on black space between eyebrows. Don't force vision. Observe the void. Exhale through mouth, 8 counts. Some see geometric patterns. Others feel pressure. Others nothing yet. All valid. Continue. 7th breath, final activation. Inhale through nose, 4 counts. Hold 7 seconds. Declare internally, I see, I awaken, I am. Exhale through mouth, 10 counts. Maximum duration. Then, silence. Don't open eyes immediately. Remain in silence, witnessing what arises. Lights, colors, symbols, or nothing. Stay minimum 5 minutes. Pure observation. This is the complete protocol Michael followed for 21 days. Twice daily, morning and evening. First 7 days, almost nothing beyond darkness. Day 8, light flashes began. Day 12, geometric patterns. Day 15, vivid colors. Day 18, the guardian encounter. Day 21, the subway perception. Since then, Michael hasn't stopped practicing, but he reduced frequency to once daily, mornings, because once activated, the pineal doesn't need constant stimulation. It needs maintenance. Morning light exposure daily. Blue light fast minimum 3 nights weekly. 7 breath meditation each morning. This keeps the channel open, but there's something nobody tells you about living with optimized pineal function. Michael discovered this in the months following. His life transformed in ways he didn't anticipate. Some positive, others challenging. Positively, extraordinarily heightened intuition. Made decisions with confidence because he knew outcomes before they manifested. Avoided dangerous situations through hunches that proved accurate. Found opportunities appearing as impossible synchronicities. At work, insights emerging from nowhere. Solutions to complex problems arriving complete, elegant, unexpected. Promoted twice in 6 months. But there was a cost. Difficulty in crowded environments. Shopping malls, concerts, large gatherings. Sensory overload became unbearable. He felt everyone's emotional states simultaneously. Collective anxiety, repressed anger, masked grief. Like standing in a room of emotional mirrors. He also began perceiving incongruence between words and energy. When people lied, he felt the dissonance. Not from being smarter, from sensing the energetic mismatch. This destroyed some friendships. Because you don't always want to know the truth about people. Michael had to learn to create perceptual filters, ways to modulate awareness when necessary. Thoth taught this too. In the Emerald Tablets there's a principle, the principle of the veil. The veil between ordinary and non-ordinary perception exists for protection, not to keep you ignorant, to prevent overwhelming your system before you're prepared. When you optimize pineal function deliberately, you're removing that protective filter, which means you assume responsibility for what you'll perceive. Not everyone is ready for this. Michael almost wasn't, but he had discipline, and discipline separates healthy activation from chaotic destabilization. Many attempt pineal activation without preparation, use random techniques from internet videos, combine practices carelessly, and end up fragmenting their perception. Seeing things but lacking context, feeling energies but unable to filter. This isn't awakening, it's disorganization, and it can lead to anxiety, paranoia, dissociation. Critical warning. If you have history of schizophrenia, psychosis, or dissociative disorders, do not attempt this protocol. Consult mental health professionals for appropriate care. This is why Thoth encoded the knowledge, why ancients taught only the prepared, why protocol exists, not just technique. Michael followed the framework precisely, which is why he crossed the threshold stably, but he wasn't alone. Let me tell you about Sarah, 41, holistic therapist from Boston. Different story, equally revealing. Sarah had practiced meditation for 10 years, done retreats, studied various techniques, but never experienced anything beyond ordinary relaxation. She began thinking she simply lacked the capacity. That expanded awareness was for special people. Until she discovered the mistake she'd been making for a decade, a mistake 90% of practitioners make, one that completely blocks optimal results. Sarah was forcing, trying to create experiences, attempting to make something happen, and the more she tried, the less occurred. Because this process doesn't respond to force, it responds to surrender, to allowing, to passive observation. Thoth called this the principle of non-interference. When you try controlling the process, you activate prefrontal cortex, analytical rational controlling, which suppresses the very states you're trying to access, like trying to sleep while hyper-focused on sleeping. The more you try, the less you succeed. Sarah learned this when she found the 7-breath protocol. She noticed one word repeated throughout: observe, not make, not create, not force. Observe. Day 5 of her protocol. 6th breath, simply observing darkness between eyebrows. No expectation, no effort. And then, like a switch activating, it appeared. A point of electric blue light. She hadn't created it, wasn't imagining. It was autonomous, alive, real. The point expanded, became a tunnel. Sarah felt herself being drawn into it. Fear arose. She opened her eyes. Everything vanished, but that night the most vivid dream of her life, floating above her body, seeing the room from above, seeing her physical form lying in bed. Knowing with certainty this wasn't ordinary dreaming, spontaneous out-of-body experience. Following days brought increasingly profound experiences. Day 10, symbols appearing she'd never studied, complex geometries resembling codes. She drew them after meditation. Later research revealed authentic hermetic symbols, symbols she'd never consciously encountered. How did they appear? Day 14, knowing things about her clients before they spoke, seeing emotional roots of their issues. Not from psychological analysis, direct information. When she mentioned these insights in sessions, clients cried, "How did you know? I never told anyone." Sarah couldn't explain, but it worked. Clients experienced profound healings in half the usual time. Her waitlist tripled. Day 21, the deepest experience, morning meditation, reached 7th breath. And suddenly, no body, pure consciousness, floating in infinite space, perceiving in all directions simultaneously, not with eyes, with awareness itself. And in that state, understanding arose. Reality isn't solid, it's frequency, everything vibrating at different speeds. And depending on your consciousness frequency, you access different layers. Most people locked in narrow bandwidth, seeing only dense physical spectrum. But when you optimize pineal function, you tune to other frequencies, like changing radio stations. Other stations were always there. You just weren't tuned in. Sarah returned transformed. Not because she became special, because she realized she was never limited. Limitation was just a filter in perception. Remove the filter, the world reveals itself, infinite, interconnected, conscious. But like Michael, she faced challenges, hypersensitivity, overload in dense environments, difficulty around people vibrating at very low frequencies. She had to learn energetic boundary creation. So I'll teach you now. When pineal function is optimized, learn the hermetic shield technique. From Thoth's teachings on energetic protection, simple but essential. Before leaving home or entering challenging environments, close eyes 30 seconds, 3 deep breaths. Visualize sphere of golden light surrounding you. Not weak light, brilliant, solid, impenetrable sphere. Declare mentally, only what resonates with my frequency can affect me. This isn't fantasy, it's neurological programming. Telling your nervous system, filter, don't absorb everything. It works. Michael and Sarah use this daily. Difference is remarkable. Now the complete 21-day protocol, because 7 breaths alone aren't sufficient. They're the core, but must be embedded in supportive context, a lifestyle that supports optimization. Otherwise you activate, but calcification returns, and you lose access. Week 1. Purification days. 1 to 7 dedicated to clearing terrain. Consider reducing fluoride exposure, fluoride-free toothpaste, water filtration if concerned. Reduce processed foods. Implement blue light fast nightly. 0 screens after sunset. Only candlelight or red lamps. Difficult first days, but essential. Practice Rising Sun Protocol daily, 15 minutes outdoors facing east during sunrise. Remember, never look directly at sun, indirect morning light only. Perform 7 breaths twice daily, once after sunrise, once 2 hours before sleep. First week, don't expect major visual phenomena. You're preparing foundation, detoxifying, adjusting rhythms, but pay attention to dreams. They begin changing second half of week, more vivid, more memorable. Week 2, activation days. 8 to 14, pineal begins truly responding. Continue everything from week 1. Consider specific supplementation after consulting healthcare provider. Some practitioners use magnesium glycinate before sleep, vitamin D3 in morning if deficient, omega-3 for brain health. Always consult qualified healthcare provider before starting supplements. Add 963 Hz during meditations, headphones, low volume. Background sound while performing 7 breaths. This week, light flashes may begin. Geometric patterns, colors when eyes closed. Don't force. Simply observe. The more you observe without interfering, the more appears. Beware spiritual ego. Don't broadcast your experiences. This disperses energy. Cultivate in silence. Week 3, integration days. 15-21, stabilizing what's been activated. Continue all previous practices. Add meditation in total silence. After 7 breaths, 15 minutes pure observation. No music, no intention, no expectation, pure witnessing. This phase may bring guardian encounters. Remember Michael's Day 18? If you perceive dark forms, shadows, presences, don't panic. They're aspects being integrated. Observe with curiosity, not fear. Ask, what do you represent? Observe the response. Usually they dissolve upon recognition. Day 21, special meditation. 45 minutes complete. 7 breaths to activate. Then 38 minutes, pure silence. Observe, witness, allow. Whatever arises, let it arise. Whatever is, let it be. Consolidation meditation. After this, pineal remains optimized, not at constant peak intensity, but channel open. Now maintain with daily practice. Post 21 days, maintenance protocol is simple. Morning light exposure daily, minimum 10 minutes. 7 breaths once daily mornings. Blue light fast minimum 3 nights weekly. Continued supplementation if recommended by healthcare provider. This maintains pineal decalcified and optimized. Expanded awareness becomes your new baseline. But there's something critical I need you to understand. Not everyone should attempt pineal optimization. Real contraindications exist. If you have history of schizophrenia, psychosis, or dissociative disorders, do not do this protocol. These practices can destabilize perception in vulnerable individuals. If you're in deep emotional crisis, severe depression, or recent grief, wait. Stabilize first, then explore. If you're using psychoactive substances recreationally, stop before beginning. Combination can be unpredictable. And if you're doing this for ego gratification, to feel special, to impress others, it won't work. This process responds to intention. If intention isn't aligned with growth and service, access doesn't occur. Simple as that. Michael had intention of understanding. Sarah had intention of serving clients better. Both transcended ego, which is why optimization succeeded. But there was another person who tried and failed. James, 28, from Chicago. James wanted powers, wanted to feel special, impress friends with abilities. He followed steps mechanically, but intention was corrupted. Day 12. Anxiety crisis during meditation. Felt like losing grip on reality. Opened eyes in panic. Stopped everything. Why? Because this isn't an ego tool. It's a service portal. When you attempt activation with egoic intention, you create short circuit. Energy rises but has nowhere to go. Ego blocks the passage, generates anxiety, paranoia, fragmentation. James was fortunate to stop. Continuing could have caused serious issues. So, before beginning, ask honestly, why do I want this? If the answer centers on I, reconsider. If the answer involves service, understanding, growth to contribute, proceed. Intention is everything. Now let me address what happens post-optimization, because life with optimized pineal function is different. You need to be prepared for these changes. First change, synchronicities intensify dramatically. You begin perceiving patterns everywhere, repeated numbers, 1111, 2222, 333, meetings by chance that aren't chance, books falling from shelves exactly when you need that information, people appearing at precise moments. This isn't luck. It's you perceiving the web of connections always present. Michael now surfs synchronicities, doesn't overplan, flows with signals. Things align naturally. Second change, truth detection. Lies become obvious. Not from superior intelligence, from feeling energetic dissonance. When someone's words don't match their energy, you perceive the gap. This can be uncomfortable, especially in relationships. Sarah lost friendships post-activation. She couldn't pretend not to see anymore. Some people aren't ready to be truly seen. Third change, intuition becomes primary navigation. You know when something's right or wrong, not logically, sensorily. When you trust this, life simplifies. You avoid harmful situations before entering them. You choose optimal opportunities without complete information. You navigate with internal compass that doesn't fail. Fourth change, you need less distraction, less noise, less external stimulation. Satisfaction with simplicity. Nature walk becomes more engaging than any film. Silence more interesting than empty conversation. You don't lose interest in life. You gain interest in what's real. And fifth change, you understand you're not alone. Not in terms of people around you, but in sensing connection to something vast, consciousness permeating existence. Some call it God, others universe, others unified field. Name doesn't matter. What matters? Direct experience of being part of infinite web. When you feel this, fear of death dissolves, because you know consciousness doesn't die, just transforms. Thoth knew all this. Why he encoded the knowledge, not to hide, to protect, until humanity was ready. And maybe perhaps that moment is arriving, more people awakening, global calcification reversing, new era of expanded awareness emerging. You can participate or remain in comfortable limitation. Choice is yours. But if you choose optimization, do it with reverence, do it with discipline, do it with pure intention. And remember, this isn't about becoming special. It's about remembering who you always were, a multidimensional being, with access to awareness layers temporarily forgotten, never lost, just dormant, waiting for you to remember. So here's what I need you to do now, not tomorrow, not later, now. Go to comments and write, "I witness beyond the veil." This isn't just a phrase, it's declaration of intention. You telling the universe, I'm ready to perceive more. Activating code within you, because words carry power. Thoth knew this 3,000 years ago, called it the power of creative word. When you declare something with true intention, you shift reality at quantum level. And after you write that, do one more thing. Tomorrow morning at sunrise, begin. Don't wait for next Monday. Don't wait for next month. Don't wait for right time. Right time is always now. Because each day you postpone is one more day with filters active. One more day without accessing what's already yours. One more day distant from your complete self. And look, I know you might think, what if I can't? What if I lack discipline? What if it doesn't work for me? Let me tell you something. Michael was skeptical. Sarah tried for 10 years unsuccessfully. They weren't special when they started. They became exceptional because they started. Difference between who optimizes and who doesn't isn't talent. It's decision followed by consistent action. 21 days, that's all I'm asking. 21 days of total commitment. And at the end, you won't be the same person. Your perception will have expanded. Your reality access will have changed. And you'll look back thinking, how did I live so long with filters on? So this is your mission now. Comment, I witness beyond the veil. Start protocol tomorrow at dawn. Follow precisely for 21 days. Return on day 22 to share your experience. The veil was always thin. Thoth knew this. Ancients knew this. Now you know this. Only question, will you lift it? Or continue looking through it without seeing? The pineal gland is waiting. Portals are open. Frequency is calling. And everything begins with choice. a declaration, a word. I witness beyond the veil. Write it now, and let the awakening begin.